season right around the corner, and I've been fiending for some basketball. So much so that this is the most amount of preseason games that I have consumed in my entire life. And I have to say, there's some pretty doggone good hoops and a lot of takeaways from these random exhibition games. Shout out to LaMelo Ball and the Charlotte Hornets. They were a fun watch, and they're going to continue to be a fun watch. Khalil Ware is positioned to take a massive leap in his sophomore season, so buy up as much stock as you can of Khalil Ware out in Miami. As a Laker fan, not the greatest preseason. I must admit, Austin Reeves looked really explosive. Gabe Vincent gave me some solid minutes, but Dawson Connect, boy, that trade value keeps going down every single time you miss a shot. DeAndre Ayton, my goodness, all you gotta do is be a starting caliber center, and I don't even know if you're going to be able to do that. And then we learned that LeBron is going to be out until mid-November, so there's that as well. However, easily my biggest takeaway is how impressed I was with some of these young players that was literally just drafted a few months ago. Shout out to Dylan Harper. He had a lot of explosive moments in the preseason games. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yang Heinsohn. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, but he looked great. I ain't gonna lie, right? He looked really, really great. I understand why people are comparing him to Jokic. And obviously this rookie class, and more importantly, this rookie season, will be headlined by Ace Bailey and Cooper Flagg, both of which looked really, really, really good during these preseason outings. Now, I was going to make a video about Ace Bailey and how great he looked because, bro, he had a lot of really great film, off-ball shooting, really explosive at the basket, and if I were to believe that his defensive motor can be slightly more consistent, I would very easily say that he's going to be better than Cooper Flagg coming out the gate. However, I think it's irresponsible to jump to those conclusions, especially because Ace only gave us two preseason games, so he got to give us a little bit more footage in that. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's some good footage. Even though it's just 2 games, it's a lot of really, really good footage, and I'm excited to see what he's going to look like in his upcoming season in Utah. But then there's Cooper Flagg. Now, I already knew that I was going to be impressed with him heading into this year coming out of Duke. Also had really great moments in Summer League as well, putting him on a roster with a bunch of veterans on the defensive side of the floor that was truly going to maximize him on that side of the ball. Of course, the ceiling was slightly higher than your average rookie, especially defensively. But what I've seen so far in preseason has really exceeded my expectations and has me wondering how impressive he can be early on playing legitimate minutes in the NBA. Now, some people may say that I am dragging this a little bit too much because if you look at his numbers, what he posted in the preseason in the 4 games, they're not that impressive from a points, rebounds, and assists standpoint. And truth be told, Cooper Flagg isn't going to post up crazy points, rebounds, and assist numbers, especially because offensively, he is extremely limited. Now, his IQ is extremely high and he knows his limitations, so he's still going to get easy buckets. He's great in transition, great on closeout, and he was a really confident shooter in these preseason outings. So those are all things that are in his arsenal. Now, they did try him out at the point guard position during Utah, and you can clearly see his limitations as an advantage creator, not only for himself, but for others as well. So that's not who he is. That's not his bag at all. And I do believe because of his lack of offensive repertoire, it's going to be the biggest reason why many people are not going to be that high on him when they just glance at the box score. But it's all the other things, especially on the defensive side of the floor, that has me very intrigued on what this young player is going to look like early on in his career. First, starting as an off-ball defender, Cooper uses his size and length pretty consistently to properly rotate, regardless if it's helping out at rim protection or tagging a rolling big and then closing out properly. Also, Cooper was really good playing in passing lanes, regardless if it was baseline cuts or just roaming around helping on a rolling big. Of course, this will result in live ball turnovers, which can then translate into easy transition points. And at his height and size and athleticism, he's a great lob threat running out in the break. And speaking of transition on the defensive side, that's where you can see even more of his motor and competitive nature. He consistently didn't give up on plays, ran with offensive players, even cutting them off at times, making it more difficult for them to get easy looks. And just overall, his knack and feel off the ball as a defender will consistently translate into quality possessions on that side of the floor, playing alongside someone like, I don't know, Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, really, really good defenders. And I do believe this is also a huge reason why so many people are really high on what this defensive team is going to look like moving forward. Pairing Cooper Flagg in the front court with AD, Daniel Gafford when he comes back, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, this is going to be a really, really tall and formidable front court that will be able to switch and rotate with the best of them. And that's something that Cooper also provides on the perimeter as well. His switchability, or at least defending guards at times, was much more impressive than I thought as an on-ball defender, and it wasn't just his ability to kind of cut off a driving lane, because in many instances, he's not really defending the best perimeter player on the opposing team. And also, quite frankly, preseason games, there really weren't that many great on-ball players. However, what I did love out of Cooper was his tenacity to fight over screens, regardless if that was on ball or having to fight over multiple screens after chasing someone down. Even if he gave up a little bit too much space, again, that competitive nature and that motor kicked in, kind of shooting the gaps, still contesting, or being able to trail an offensive player all the way to the basket and erase an easy layup. Again, all of these things just yell and scream a player that will have instant impact in the NBA. And from a statistical standpoint, you can see a lot of this being produced in a box score as well as in advanced analytics. I know we're getting real nerdy early on in preseason games, but trust me when I say it's not just an eye test, it also shows up in the numbers, and I want to check this out as well, and everything kind of maps out accordingly. Against OKC, when he was on the floor, he had a defensive rating of 78. Against Charlotte, when he was on the floor, he had a defensive rating of 100. And when he was on the floor against Utah, he had a defensive rating of 90. Now, against the Lakers, his defensive rating was certainly high. It was really, really high. And also, that was the only game where he had a negative plus minus. However, the only reason why his defense didn't look that good, at least on paper, in terms of his defensive rating, is because Gabe Vincent starts smacking threes left and right, which is an anomaly, and people shouldn't take that as an indication of him being a good or bad defender. If you were watching the game, you can clearly see he is still a very positive defender every single possession. And these are all things that can show up on a box score in some capacity, but there's also many other things that just won't show up from time to time. Several incidences where Cooper is running out there and jumping with big men, fighting for rebounds. Speaking of rebounds, he's also very aware and cautious to make sure that the player that he is defending does not box him out and out hustle him to get offensive boards as well, which is something that is really, really great, especially from a team like the Lakers. I watch him all the time, and for whatever reason, that's just a problem. But Cooper, at a very young age, already identifies the value of not allowing offensive boards, which is really great. And as an on-ball defender, even if he's not the greatest against some smaller guards, he's still very much so willing, which is more than important when you have backline help constantly of either Derek Lively or Anthony Davis. So defensively, it's where he's going to really show a lot of promise. But the problem is, on the defensive side of the floor, it always doesn't get awarded accordingly. And this is the problem that I think many people are going to run into as the season continues to progress. Again, offensively, Cooper is very limited. I don't want people to get all crazy about a couple of highlights where he dribbled behind his back and scored on LaMelo Ball, or a couple of crazy jump shots that knocked down because he hit a fadeaway. That's not his game. If you watch that game against Utah when he was asked to be a shot creator, that's just not in his bag. He's very limited in those regards. And the truth of the matter is, I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes rookie season only averaging around 12 to 15 points, especially because he's on a roster that already has a lot of veterans who are much more capable offensive players than he is. More than likely, he's going to run in transition, attack closeouts, and as time continues to progress, his confident jump shot shooting will become a bit more effective as well, so he can not only knock down open corner threes, but potentially be a little bit more fluid in terms of DHO action if it starts to pan out in that fashion. Then you have a putback off of an offensive rebound, a quick little dump in, cutting to the basket, bada boom, bada bing, 12 to 15 points on a roster that, again, is not going to prioritize him offensively whatsoever. It's a huge reason why I don't really buy into the Jason Tatum comps, because Tatum offensively, in my opinion, was much more fluid coming into the NBA. It's also a huge reason why I don't buy into the Scottie Pippen comps, even though Scottie coming into the league potentially was as raw as Cooper offensively, but as time continues to progress, the Scottie that we know is a much better ball handler, playmaker, passer, decision maker than Cooper comes across as right now. The comp that I see from Cooper is a young Kawhi, someone who keeps the game simple. He's going to hustle, get his points out in transition, and really thrived playing alongside a system that pushed a lot of ball movement and passing. And Cooper, as a passer, isn't the greatest in terms of being able to create advantages, but if you just need him to make the proper reads, he can do that as well. He did that in transition. He did that when the defense collapsed on him. He can make a few simple reads, grades, but not enough or anything sophisticated enough to even put him in conversations with Scottie Pippen, Paul George, Jason Tatum. But again, somewhere in the line of Kawhi Leonard, finishing off around at most 3 to 4 assists, even at his absolute best. Now, this is not a knock to Cooper. It's setting expectations accordingly and what to look for in terms of how to properly evaluate him. Because I know for a fact we're going to get into the regular season. He's going to have really bad stretches offensively just because he's more than likely going to hit the rookie wall and people are going to start to question who he is as a player. And before we get to that point, I want everyone to gauge their expectations accordingly. This is a defensive-oriented wing that is hyper-competitive on that side of the floor, on and off ball, shows a lot of value as a roamer, an anticipator in the pass lane, and all around just a quality big body wing. Offensively, he's a more complementary piece that's going to take a longer time to get to superstar status on that side. So don't anticipate him having monstrous 20-point nights. Even that game where he put up 30 points in Summer League, it's a lot of just driving straight to the basket. It's a lot of running out in transition. It's a lot of I'm just bigger and stronger than all these other young players who are around my age. You get in the NBA, you're going up against players who are veterans, who are just as big, just as tall, just as fast as you are. And so the advantages that you had throughout your collegiate career and in Summer League just won't be there. So I'm letting you know now, gauge your expectations because offensively, Cooper's not there yet. But defensively, he's really pieced it together. He has a really great foundation. And I want people to understand how to gauge who Cooper Flagg is not going to be in the points column. It's going to be in the wins column and what he looks like defensively alongside AD and company. And that alone is the reason why I do genuinely believe he's going to make a legitimate case for Rookie of the Year. But Ace Bailey will probably end up winning it just because of the gaudy numbers he's probably going to put up in contrast to Cooper Flagg. That's just my opinion. However, the point of this video is just to let you know I am very impressed. Cooper's motor defensively, very attractive, and who he is a complimentary player on both sides of the floor will really help a Mavericks team that's trying to make a playoff appearance. So hopefully Cooper Flagg, you continue to impress me and many others, and I hope that a lot of people really understand the true value of who you are as a player, even if it doesn't show up in the box score. But hey, that's my time. Please let me know your thoughts about Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey moving into the NBA season. Also, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, because with the NBA season starting up on Tuesday, we will be pushing out more videos on this channel. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.